On the menu today, this alcohol bath is going to feel so good.
Welcome.
It's pronounced refurb, not that. Oh, hello chip dippers. Welcome to Retro Recipes. Very Fractic here, your friend in retro, and of course Puppy Fractic. Now, if you saw that recent video where we unboxed this pitiful looking Commodore 128, like me, you might have rooted for the underdog. Yes, and wondered if it could be restored, or if it even worked. So that's the mammoth challenge I've set myself today. No, you're not a mammoth. The 128 was designed by a friend of the channel, Bil Herd, and between 1985 and 1989 it sold a very respectable 4.5 million units. And the appeal really was that it was 3 machines in one, perfect for the home office.
Cause you really want that 128 Commodore 128. You'll use it for your homework. You'll use it to get dates. For English, math, and science class. And it's fun to hack around.
It was a different time, wasn't it? Anyway, its Commodore 64 mode utilised the good old 6502 variant processor and made it 99% compatible with C64 software and games. And if you had one as a kid, that's probably the mode that you mostly used it in. But it could also operate in Commodore Basic version 7 mode instead of version 2 at about twice the speed, with twice the memory, 128 kilobytes instead of 64, hence the name, and twice the resolution with its 80 column mode. Great for text adventure games and of course business software.
One is as efficient in business as it is entertaining at home.
And there was even a high-res special version of GEOS, the window-based operating system.
The Commodore 128, on balance, it's the one you should choose.
And then thirdly, there was CPM mode, thanks to it also housing a Zilog Z80 processor, making it compatible with the other industry-standard CPM software already available, like I was using at the time on the Amstrad PCW. And it's a fascinating beast, but I never owned one because we had a PCW until this kind donation. For now, let's just see if this 128 even works. Now, it didn't come with a PSU, a power supply unit, which is a shame as they're more reliable than the Commodore 64 ones. So I ordered this brand new one off Amazon. Yes, kind of incredible that that's even an option for 36-year-old computers, huh? Oh, bloody hell. Well, I'll just unravel these wires before we open the machine up to see what's wrong. Just unravel these and... never mind, I'll do that in a future episode, I guess. And these rusty screws seem to be particularly squeaky today. If and when we put the machine back together, we'll treat it to some new ones, I think. Now, this heatsink interference shield is pretty much useless and was just to meet some overreaching FCC regulations. And they say it actually made the chips hotter, so we'll just put it on Fleabay and add some modern heatsinks later. Oop. That is quite a board, isn't it? We'll come back to that in a second, but let's just get the case in the Wishdosher and see if it might solve some of our cleanliness problems. As always, I'm using Wishdosher pods, which are terrible for eating. Yeah, don't try that at home, kids, but great for old plastic and electronics, particularly as better brands contain anti-corrosives that protect the metal just as they protect silverware from oxidation. Make sure you turn off heat dry on the Wishdosher, or you'll end up with a Commodore 1/2 paperweight. Yeah, the jokes don't get any better. And speaking of washing, back on the PCB here, there are several crusty areas of leakage of some kind or other. So let's clean them up as best we can. And there's all sorts of other possible problems. The piece of metal here, for example, that could be causing a short circuit that's leading to our faults. Hello, baby. You want some Commodore? Oh, just cuddles. Okay. And any traces that had leakage on, we should just test the continuity is still intact to make sure it hasn't eaten through to the metal traces themselves. And in this case, it seems fine. Well, let's check out the video circuits under this equally useless shield. We'll put that on Facebook Marketplace. On the left is the 80-column VDC video chip, and on the right is the 40-column VIC-2 chip, as found in the Commodore 64. And though we're not using RF video output, we can at least clean up that RF cover. We'll do that in a minute. And it doesn't look too bad inside there. Nice. Now this resistor network serving the RAM chips seems to have leaked, which I didn't even think was a thing. This is basically just a number of resistors in one package. You see, too much current can destroy the RAM, so by putting resistors at the input of each chip, or this network of them to cover all the chips, you limit the current that can reach them. If this has leaked, as it looks, it might have allowed too much current in and damaged the RAM, which could explain some of our problems.
Harry, have you seen my toothbrush?
No. My, this alcohol bath is going to feel so good. Well, we'll clean the board and I'll order a replacement part to install when it arrives in a few minutes. Enjoy the video. And this will get rid of all the debris and any other possible short circuit causes, get them off the board and onto my cutting pad. And with all that done, let's give it another try, why not? Fingers crossed. We can see that the drive light flashes, which means the machine itself is alive to a degree, and it's not a power routing issue or anything like that. Well, next step is the trusty dead test cartridge. I got this one from the wonderfully named Coprolite Computers. Yeah, I think that literally means fossilized poop. And Jupiter Lander is another really good tester as a cartridge because it contains its own ROM that bypasses any issues with the Commodore's ROM. And we have life of some kind. So these flashes here are the only way that the cartridge can communicate to us through a dead machine that there is indeed an issue with the RAM. And as it's giving 7 flashes and none of the other chips seem to be overly hot, which can also indicate an issue, we can refer to the manual and see here that 7 flashes indicates RAM chips U39 or U47. I preferred UB40, or was it level 42? Anyway, I can use my favourite piggybacking technique to try a quick fix. Now, I did a whole video about why piggybacking RAM chips works, so I won't bore you with all the explanations again here. So for the piggybacking, let's go to the stockroom and get some known good working RAM chips and see what other chips we've got too. You good boy? No, it's piggybacking, not piggy bacon.
Oh, big stretch.
Bro. Come on, bro. Now, some of those errors are just because we don't have a loop-back harness attached to the ports that it's trying to test, so we can ignore those. But the RAM is pretty much getting us booted, and after a lot of fiddly holding piggybacked chips in place, I feel confident at least part of the problem is those 2 chips, which means let's just replace them permanently. But while I was away, looks like the alcohol, yep, has leached under my cutting pad. This could be the end of an era. It is. Oh dear. I'm going to auction this off for charity. I'll put the eBay link in the description of the video, And if you want the cutting pad used in over 2 years of my videos, well, here it is. And I'm going to sign it as well. I could use this pen by PCBWay. They're actually terrible at making cutting pads. But if you want a good quality PCB starting at just $5, then I do recommend PCBWay. Because as we all know, PCB stands for Poor Cutting Pads Buggered, doesn't it? Now, it's worth mentioning the resistor network hasn't arrived from Mouser.com yet, but I'm unlikely to do any long-term damage trying the machine just for a minute or two. And with time pressing on, I think we should just keep going with the repair. Now, these old RAM chips and their old solder are among the hardest I've ever tried to remove. I mean, they literally, you think you've released every pin and then you find 7 more pins that just don't want to go. I even tried adding new solder and lots of flux. And yep, I have unfortunately ended up lifting 2 traces off the board. But luckily fairly easy to fix. On the underside of the board, you just run these handy dandy patch wires between the same points. Which means now we can install our lovely new RAM in our lovely new sockets. Which means it's time to test our handy dandy work, and whoa! Yes! Better than even the piggybacking for some reason. Exciting, huh? Yeah. That's a bit odd. Did you do that? You broke it, now you have to fix it.
I can build a spaceship! Right now! That's okay. I didn't really want to build a spaceship anyway. That's cool.
And yeah, rebooting into 40-column mode without the dead test cartridge and running some system tests reveals we're not out of the woods yet. There's definitely still some gremlins in the works. And 80-column mode is another different story. This really is... this is the problem with it being 3 computers in one. Even if you solve part of a problem on one circuit, another circuit might have a totally different fault going on. Notice how the numbers here are superscript, but the letters are fine, whereas on the 40-column mode we just had garbled text. Okay, well, to try to smooth out those last gremlins, and as a good practice anyway, let's just firstly recap the whole board, replacing the old potentially leaky capacitors with brand new ones. There, a new little city. And those new heat sinks for the two video chips going on here with 3M thermal tape, no more messy thermal paste. And this will replace the old interference shield that we put on Fleabay, and it's not so hot heat sinks. And some more heat sinks for the SID chip too, just because I love it. The other chips should be fine, they're generally not prone to overheating. And while we're tidying up the board with all these new parts, let's see if we can make that RF cover look a bit more shiny and factory new too. And speaking of restoring things, this Recipode is also sponsored by Wondershare Recover It for all your data recovery needs. With both free and paid versions on Windows and Macintosh, they offer patented technology to restore lost data and corrupted videos. Maybe even this one. Oh, hold up, something's beeping in the kitchen. And yeah, after 3 hours wish-doshing, let's see if the case and keyboard look factory new too. Though that might be a bit too much to ask. Well, actually, that kind of is the case. No pun intended. Well, it was always a pun intended, but look at that. What I thought might be melted plastic was actually apparently all sticker residue, either from a kid who was far too excited about having 3 computers in one here, or possibly security stickers or something from if it belonged to a school or, I don't know, the NSA. And we should be able to get the rest of that sticker residue off with some good old WD-40. Now it has revealed some damage here, apparently done by a previous owner who was probably trying to scrape off the stickers. I'll have to think about whether that's worth filling with putty and then respraying the whole case afterwards, or whether after some retrobrighting it might just smooth out all the colours. Stay tuned to find out. And the badge, which was already peeling before the wish-dosher, is now equally unpeeling. But luckily, the badgeman himself, Marco van den Meulenhof, is sending some replacement badges our way. Oh, and that reminds me, big thanks also to Ray Carlson for his troubleshooting help on this video. Links to both of them in the description. So let's remove the old badge in preparation for the new one from Badgeman! And I do think this case and keyboard is the ideal candidate for some slow and mess-free Lightbrighting.
A few moments later.
Now you know I'm a big fan of that technique, and YouTuber Hebert recently did a great scientific research video into all different retrobrighting techniques, where he had this to say about Lightbrighting.
Paraphractic did a great video a few years ago. When presented with information about a complex subject, it is natural to be defensive of your currently held opinion. I was certainly guilty of this the first time I watched his video. For thousands of years, folks have been using the sun to bleach fabrics and other items. The UV in the sun is providing the energy that allows the oxygen in the air to oxidize the yellow-producing chromophores. In short, sunbrighting is also a bleaching process. I have to admit that my initial reaction to sun bleaching plastic was that it felt wrong. Paraphractic made some very good points about the number of hours required to sunbright are tiny in comparison to the number of hours the object has been exposed to light over its entire lifetime. After discovering that retrobright was a bleaching process, as is sunbright, my opinion shifted to match what I had learned. Never be afraid to question your assumptions and what you think you know. I'm sure we've all heard the arguments that retrobrighting makes the plastic brittle and destroys it. The retrobrighting process changes the plastic very slightly. However, the change is minute and insignificant with respect to the structural integrity of the part. Bleaching the plastic once, even if it takes a few days, will have an undetectably small effect on its structure. Myth busted.
Obligatory disclaimer.
But as with any retrobrighting technique or anything here really, try it at your own risk. Don't try it at home. Try it at school or something. I'm not recommending it, I'm just showing it because it's the method that I'm using. Well, while we leave the three of them to fight it out and marinate in the sun, let's see if recapping the board fixed our various other glitches. Sadly not. Well, one possible cause of the 80-column issues is these two VDC video RAM chips sitting alongside the VDC video chip. So I bought this super simple drop-in upgrade called Saruman VDC, and it's made by Eslapion. There's Eslapion. Anyway, it upgrades the video space from 16 kilobytes to 64 kilobytes, and in doing so, it can also help us troubleshoot. You don't even need to desolder the old chips. This one takes over from them. And poodoo. So let's try some good old chip swapping, chip dippers, with a known working Commodore 128 that was also donated to the channel. A 128 that clearly gave a lot of spiders a lot of happiness over the years. Reminds me, I haven't seen Cocoon for a while. Well guys, I've swapped every single chip here and the issues are still... Oh, actually, I haven't swapped the VDC video chip itself because I'm told that they rarely fail. But as we have a spare, that's worth a try as well. Here we go. Yes! England! Come on, my son. Look at that. Perfect. What about 40-column mode? Still gobbledygook. It really does look like a RAM issue though, particularly because it's different every time, which I guess could be a symptom of different bits of data getting loaded differently into memory each time. But our RAM chips tested okay with the dead test card, didn't they? Well, Ray Carlson's just informed me that actually the dead test only tests the first bank of chips, the first 64 kilobytes. But by swapping the output lines of these two resistors, you can swap the memory banks with each other, making the dead test therefore test the other 64K of RAM too. And with the banks swapped, we're getting multiple different flashes. So back to Eslapion's products, and he sent us these incredible RAM replacement modules for the C64 and C128. You just snip out all the RAM chips, no desoldering necessary and the risks to the traces that it brings. You socket the module in place, run a few wires, and you're good to go. These are going to come in so handy for future C64 repairs as well. But before I try that, you know, the last time I saw this issue, it was due to a broken trace on another Commodore 64 a couple of years ago actually, which makes me think about the traces that I did lift up during the RAM repair. Wait. Guys, I'm sorry, I just noticed that with all the moving around on the bench, one of those patch wires that I'd run underneath had lifted up. So let's resolder it properly this time, secure it down with some thermal tape, and try it one more time.
A great success!
And for the first time ever since I got this machine, 40-column mode is fully working. You can even see the upgraded video RAM registering here. It's going to be really handy for GEOS 128, for paint programs, and of course, demos like this. And as this just arrived, I can't resist finishing our work by replacing it, along with the capacitor that was damaged near those almost impossible to remove RAM chips. And that's it. Thanks for... Oh wait, I completely forgot I left the case outside. Let's see how it looks after 5 days, 8 hours a day. Here's how it looked before, and all of this footage was shot with the exact same camera ISO and white balance, etc. So this really is the difference from nothing but sun. Now, if anything, the camera makes things look a little different than they do to my eye in real life. So here's an adjusted comparison of how I think it really looks to the eye before and after. Although, of course, I am slightly red-green colorblind. In fact, I remember when I first found out, it came completely out of the purple. Sorry. Well, let's bring it back in for a few finishing touches, starting with a magic eraser. And as the new badge hasn't arrived yet, I did find this other kind donation. So as a temporary measure, we'll pop this in place until the real thing can stick around. So what about these scratches? Well, I think the retrochannel did really help even things out, and in most angles, they just disappear. I think sanding or putty and painting would really be overkill here. So on this occasion, I'm just going to call these proud battle scars. I bet I probably never noticed them again. Come on then, let's have a quick reminder of the disaster that was this yellow, stickery, black screen, faulty rammed, faulty video chipped Commodore 128 before we started work on it, and then some of those after glamour shots that you know and love. Enjoy. And this is a fascinating machine, and I think for the first time, with everything I've been through with it, and everything we've been through together with it, I think I've actually fallen in love with a computer that I didn't own growing up. It's a real feat of engineering. It does so much more than a Commodore 64, but yes, I probably also love it because it houses a Commodore 64 inside it too. The best of both worlds, the best of three worlds. Well, make sure you're subscribed, as in a future Recipode we'll be exploring what if I'd upgraded from the C64 to the 128. Until next time, thanks for watching. Support restorations like this one below, and cheerio.